Welcome to episode 10. This is the episode on room acoustics. Now, room acoustics in general, is a very deep subject. People spend their entire lives studying acoustics and making a career out of it. We can't get that deep, but we're going to cover some basic things that you might want to consider when it comes to your room in your home studio. One of the basic things about acoustics is when a sound propagates from a source and hits a surface, it is reflected off of that surface. The harder and smoother that surface is, the more sound gets reflected. And the more hard and smooth surfaces you have in your room, the more that sound reflects and then reflects again and then reflects again, thus creating reverberance and liveness. As an example, take a look at this. Welcome to the creepy room. This is a room that has no acoustic treatment to it. And I've got set up a little stereo Zoom recorder here. And then I've got a large diaphragm microphone here. So you can hear what's going on in this room. Well, you're hearing that little, that's the parallel walls with sound slapping back and forth, creating a little delay. You hear it ring out? So that's parallel walls, hard surfaces that have no absorptive material on them. Although there is absorptive material in the room, there's a bed with pillows, there's furniture in here, but the big problem here is there's a sliding glass door that's a hard surface, there's 4 walls that are hard surfaces, and there's a ceiling that's a hard surface, and there's a floor that's a hard surface. All these hard surfaces, sound hits these hard surfaces and bounces off of them. And when it bounces off of it, it goes and hits another hard surface. Then it bounces off of that hard surface. Then it goes and hits another hard surface. And that's the reason you have this liveness in the room. The sound is not being absorbed. It's just flying around. Live. Too live. Now let's think about this. If I'm up on this microphone and I'm doing a vocal, here's what it's going to sound like. Okay? With me about, a foot away from the mic. The closer I get to the mic, obviously, the less problem there is to this. Now, if I get away from the mic to capture resonance or whatever, well, unfortunately, it's also going to capture the room. So, if your room is too live, you're going to be trapped into a situation where you're going to have to be up on that microphone more. So here we are back in the room we normally shoot in. This room does have acoustic treatment. Spent about $3,000 on materials and a considerable amount of 2 or 3 days of putting the stuff up in order to get this. It's just a little bit live. The room without treatment, you remember, reverbed. So I can, if I wish, get away from this mic a foot or two and get a little bit of resonance, or if I wish, I can be right up on it, have that sound, that closer proximity, get a little bit of the proximity effect. Or I can get away from it and not have it. At least I have the option in a room that has a little bit of acoustic treatment. So to minimize liveness in your room, you want to cut down on these reflections. The surfaces in your room, the walls, the floor, need to have sound absorptive materials. On your floor, carpeting is the easiest answer for that. If you have a hardwood floor, put down some carpet padding and then lay some rugs on top of that. That's what I did in my room. For your walls, there's several commercial companies out there that make different panels. Auralex, Prime Acoustic. On Amazon, you can buy little panels by a company called Foamily. Regardless, there are people who make products that go all the way from cheap, inexpensive to very expensive. Then there's the do-it-yourself version for your walls. getting blankets or comforters, hanging them from ceiling to floor, covering different areas of the room to damp it down and to make it less reflective, make it less live. Be careful though, don't create a fire hazard. You do want to avoid having parallel surfaces. If you have parallel surfaces in your room, which you more than likely do because most rooms are square, try and break those parallel surfaces up with soft absorptive materials or putting things up that create just variations in the surface. My room is 12 feet by 14 feet. It's not a very big room, and it has a ceiling that is a vaulted ceiling, so it goes from around 7 feet to around 14 feet in height. That's a great thing because the floor and the ceiling are not parallel to each other. The floor is a wood floor, so I had to cover it with carpeting. The concept that I wanted to employ was a version of a live-in, dead-in room. Regarding live-in, dead-end, the area where I mix and listen has more absorptive materials than the area at the other end of the room. You see all the absorptive panels here. The other end of the room has more live surfaces, and it also has these diffusers that are made of styrofoam, so when sound waves hit them, they scatter in different directions and they don't come back as one unified thing in this direction. As well as up on the ceiling, there's diffusion up there to scatter sound waves in different directions. So it's a little bit live, but they can't gang up and act as a unified force. In the corners, there's bass trapping. Bass builds up in corners, so you want to trap it there. Same thing on this end. All right, so hopefully now you know a little bit more about room acoustics, how to get the liveness of your room under control, give you a few options when you're recording. In episode 11, we get into recording vocals, different mics to use, whether you're doing a lead vocal or you're doing backing vocals, layering vocals, signal paths, miking techniques, all sorts of wonderful things. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe and continue watching the Home Studio for Beginners course here on Record, Mix, Repeat. I'm your host, Rusty Smith. Thanks for watching.